Hello everyone, I'm Zoltan the Gamerman, and coming up are my honest thoughts on Resident Evil Village. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how the latest installment in Capcom's survival horror series looks, how it sounds, a little bit about its story, and most importantly, how it feels stepping once more into the quaking civilian boots of Ethan Winters and yet again trying to figure out why the cinnamon toast is his family the target of yet another series of harassments by supernatural monsters, werewolves, creepy puppet masters, Magneto's white trash cousin, big bouncy bootylicious vampire milfs with
massive the hunka bankaloos.
Oh, and also to figure out why Chris Redfield is such a dick in this one. So let's get right into it. As you'd expect, Capcom did not pull any punches when it came to the beautiful graphics of Resident Evil Village. I was lucky enough to play it on the PlayStation 5 and it just looks absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Right from the get-go, I was in absolute awe of how well the textures look, how realistic the surroundings are, and I mean, just look at the characters' hands. The skin texture on them looks almost photorealistic. I mean, on more than one occasion, I found myself pulling a Jeremy Clarkson and going,
That is astonishing!
So yeah, it's quite impressive, and the village is also just awesome. I have to commend the developers for just taking the time, doing their homework, and somewhat paradoxically, breathing life into the kinda sorta massacred village where the bulk of the game goes down. Oh, and I also gotta mention the wonderful, gorgeous, yet imposing and masterfully crafted Castle Dimitrescu, which was inspired by the Peleș Castle, now a national museum here in Romania. And I can also only say positive things about the characters. I mean, let's put aside the bootylicious vampire mama for a second. I mean, I liked roaming the beautiful castle and calling out like,
Mommy! 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 Mama! Mama!
for the almost 3-meter bodacious blood-sucking eye candy as much as the next guy, but there's plenty of kudos to go around. Her bugged-out daughters also look great, not to mention the Lycans, who will chomp down on Ethan whenever they can, giving you the chance to look into their stargazed eyes every so often. And each time they did, and believe me, they did it a lot, I couldn't help but think, these ugly-ass werewolf monsters are quite pretty. Also, some of the views in this game are, wow, they're just simply jaw-dropping. At times, they almost made me forget that there were a handful of Lycans trying to take a few bite-sized chunks out of Ethan's sweet behind. There's just one
teensy weensy but ever so crucial little tiny detail.
The mirrors!
Sorry about that. I mean, let me just explain, okay? I get that not showing Ethan's face is a big thing here, but dude, seriously, come on! We are living in the age of ray tracing and high frame rates and never before seen levels of detail. The floors and marble surfaces are all gorgeously reflective. The wood glints with the light of the surrounding candles like, and every glass surface shines impeccably. It's all just... And then I get to a mirror, try to look into it, and it all goes... Okay, maybe I am nitpicking here, but this really kind of is the only thing that bugged me with the game's looks. Everything else was really just awesome. Well, that's all for graphics. Let's move it over to sound. Here too, RE Village's devs did an absolutely bang-up job when delivering the game's sounds. The ambient sounds almost always managed to keep me on edge, even when I knew that I absolutely positively most definitely took out all the enemies in a given area. A little twig snapping, a door shutting behind me, some wood slightly cracking nearly always made me turn back and go, "Who are you?" Now, I am not even close to being a horror expert, having started my horror gaming career with Resident Evil 2's remake, but in my experience, music can kind of make or break the horror sensation for me. You know what I'm talking about, right? That feeling of chills running down my spine, that sense of unease that starts creeping up from way down in my gut and making its way slowly up to my brain, letting me know that something's about to happen that's gonna make me feel like I'm right there on that thin knife edge between nutting up and taking down whatever's about to come at me, or just tossing my controller on the table saying, "Fuck this shit, I'm out," and curling up in the fetal position like the little bitch that I am and having flashbacks of jump scares. Yeah. And Resident Evil Village's eerie, violin-dominated tunes mostly did a great job of getting me started on that path of dread. However, luckily, the game wasn't ever toss my controller and go cry scary, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. Anyway, time for some more nitpicking. I was really underwhelmed by the pistol sounds. To me, every time I shot the pistol, it just sounded weak and dull in comparison to the other gun sounds, which were quite good. And especially when compared to RE Biohazard's pistol sounds, which to me were just a perfect blend of meaty and metallic and explosive, you know? This just fell a bit short. All in all though, sounds are mostly great, with a bit of room for improvement here and there, but let's continue now and take a bite out of the story. In Resident Evil Village, Ethan Winters returns as the main protagonist, and he's now a daddy! Ethan and Mia have moved to somewhere in Europe, and they're living a happy life together with their baby daughter, Rose. Then, one night, Chris Redfield and his team of Navy nutjobs bust in, make mincemeat of Mia, and kidnap little Rose and Ethan. Something goes awry on the road, however, and Ethan finds himself in the titular village, and takes it upon himself to rescue his beloved daughter, find out
What the hell is going on here?
as well as get himself some primo vampire booty. Yeah, no, I made that last one up. Anyway, the game story is very interesting and it kept me absolutely glued to my screen from start to finish. It is fun, it is thrilling, it is sad, sadistic, and somber, but all in a good way, and I just could not wait to delve deeper into it when I sat down to play. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the main course, which is none other than gameplay. First-person perspective is taking the reins once more as you continue Ethan's journey from Biohazard to Village, and even though I generally enjoy third-person more, I couldn't help but feel that for this particular game, as well as its predecessor, FPS was the right way to go. Gameplay is almost identical to that of Resident Evil Biohazard really, with some more fluency added to the movements and most animations given the next-gen treatment, but the core of it stays the same. The inventory management system also makes a comeback, in which you have to meticulously organize all of your stuff to make sure that anything new you pick up fits. But I'd like to mention the fact that the story-related key items such as, well, keys and wine bottles and other stuff used to progress are stored in their own little section away from your consumables and weapons, and so are the ingredients you can use to craft healing items, ammo, and throwables. Moving on a bit, traversal is pretty basic. You mostly walk or run around with Ethan, who is not very adept at climbing or jumping or reaching or just really any strenuous physical activity. It's almost like he wants to save Rose, but you know, not at the cost of putting in some real physical effort. But what he is good at is putting up his hands to block any attack, regardless if it's with claws or swords or big Lady D's badly trimmed nails. Nothing gets past those forearms. Almost. And he's also gotten quite good at shooting enemies in the face, or in my case, wherever I manage to point the guns, because I suck at aiming with the thumbsticks. The Mr. X-like chasing sequences also make a return in Village, but this time it's not a humongous, scary, stone-faced killing machine that's following you around, but rather a humongous, scary, dress-wearing, hourglass-shaped vampire fantasy woman killing machine who will slice you up if you dare attempt to approach her to get a closer look of her.
Humongous hungalonga no no logongus.
Oh, and her daughters sometimes chase you too. Moving on. Combat is very satisfying and at times unnerving, especially at first when your weapons aren't that strong and you have to dump almost a full mag into a lichen or zombie, vampire, whatever kind of thing to drop them. However, thanks to the big, round, squishy hunk of helpful advice called the Duke, Resident Evil Village's merchant character, you can upgrade your weapons. The Duke shows up at convenient places throughout the game and provides you with ammo, healing potions, crafting recipes, and upgrades for your weapons, and he can also cook for you. Some of the items, like the weapon upgrades, are a bit expensive and can take a bit of saving up to buy, but don't worry, Village has a healthy amount of side puzzles and activities which can earn you precious items, and there are also valuables dropped by enemies or found throughout the game that can be sold to the Duke for a handsome amount of lei, the game's and Romania's real-life currency. I also quite enjoyed the enemies that the game throws at you. Now, granted, there aren't that many types of foes, but for a game of this size and length, I think the variety was just right. It was at least enough to keep me on my toes at all times. Another thing that is different from its predecessor is the scale of the fights. There are occasions when Village really ups the ante and throws a couple of hordes of enemies at you just to see how well Ethan can handle himself in a scrap. these were the most stressful sequences in the game for me. The game wanted me to feel overwhelmed, and I truly did. I didn't know where to look, I didn't know where to run, I didn't know who to shoot first, and how to conserve and save my ammo. It was just a disaster for me, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Luckily though, and as I've said before, Village is not quite as difficult or as scary as Biohazard was. If you've watched my RE7 Biohazard playthrough highlight series, you'll know that that game made me scream like an 8-year-old girl on quite a few occasions.
Mother.
Village is a bit more chill, a bit more mellow, with both the eeriness and the jump scares. However, there was one sequence, which I shall not name, that gave me the fucking creeps. Ugh. Anyway, what do you guys think of Village's scare factor? Have you played through it? Have you watched gameplay of it? Is it scary enough, or would it have needed a larger helping of dread and terror? Let me know in the comments. So in conclusion, Resident Evil Village's gameplay was super fun throughout, with enough variety and tense and suspenseful moments to keep me entertained and glued to my controller and screen throughout the entire campaign. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on Resident Evil 8 Day 1 because my pre-order fell through, so that meant temporarily forsaking my weekend gamerness and powering through Village mostly in the little time that I had on weekdays and one Saturday. That being said, Resident Evil games do show you your playtime after you finish them, and mine was 9 hours and 1 minute, and from what I've read online, that's kind of the average. In weekend terms, that is either half a weekend if you go or a full weekend if you're a bit more. Resident Evil Village is another great installment in the RE franchise and a truly worthy sequel to Biohazard. While admittedly not being as terrifying, it brings considerably more action and combat to the table and manages to provide a thoroughly enjoyable experience from start to finish. In Village, you can find moments of intense action, eerie unease, and heartbreaking sorrow. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I give it a
9.
9.
I think I'll most definitely return to the creepy old village, maybe see if I can uncover some more secrets and hidden treasures, or maybe jump into mercenaries mode and shoot off the heads of some Lycans. Hell, I may even play through the story again. Either way, the game has a lot to offer, and like all Resident Evil games, is enjoyable and will reward you for multiple playthroughs. Alright, you beautiful people, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you've enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this, and ring that bell button if you want to know when I post new videos. Until next time, I'm Zoltan the Gamerman signing off. Take care, be well, and don't forget, keep on gaming.